So I'd like to welcome back Michelle Viotti from NASA. Again, she worked on that wonderful Mars project, which I think the Twitterverse is now calling So You Want to Be a Martian. Michelle, actually, before we start, I just had one leftover question from the previous session from Margaret, which was she wanted to ask how NASA was using this application as a teaching moment. And that could probably be a good segue into your next discussion here.
Well, actually, in terms of teaching moments, we want to develop actually a Red Planet Academy section of the site in the future that is specifically for kids. We had a lot of COPA compliance issues that we haven't quite resolved, so that'll be in a forthcoming part of the site, and we hope to build it out. But we have had classrooms actually email us so far on working with data as an introduction to working with data, and the only issue we had was that, the teacher wanted to do it as a class, but we really need the parental consent for the under 13 crowd. In that case, they still had to kind of send it out to the students, but we're working long-term on something that will be much more accessible to classrooms and keep us safe and keep the kids safe. So I will continue with your break entertainment. I'm not seeing my slides for the next one up. Hello?
Yes. Well,
okay.
So let's work on that.
Okay. No problem. I can just keep talking.
Go for it.
Great. So,
Michelle,
yeah.
Michelle, it's Catherine. You don't see them at the front?
I see the old slide from the last one.
Oh, sorry, I opened the wrong one. Here, just give me a sec. Sorry about that.
No problem.
My mistake. Here you go. Let me pass it back. Okay, you have control. And hold on 1 second.
Sure. But while that's coming up, our first stage really is the public outreach side, and we'll get more aggressive too with things that are standards-based for students as we go forward. One other area of the site that I wanted to talk about is Martian Townhall polling place, and it's a new thing that we have running also in the cloud as part of the site that allows the public to ask questions on various topics. You can see here planet Mars, Mars missions, Mars on Earth, etc. And the really neat thing about this tool is that the public can vote on it, and it's a little hard to see, but the green and orange bars within the blue question space show votes. So it allows us to really handle all of the public questions we get, which are sometimes overwhelming. And the public will actually help us sort them and tell us what is of most interest to them. In the future, we're going to basically take the questions that have the greatest level of interest and have, I guess we could call it an Obama-style town hall session where the public can then interact with some of our Mars scientists and engineers on the topics that are most important to them. The neat thing about this, though, is that we're also looking at it in application to some of our internal working groups as well for ideas and topics that might come up. And while I'm technology agnostic, obviously, from a Gov perspective, this Town Hall tool will be reusable and an asset that if you guys have other applications you can think of for it for your own purposes, it'll be available for free to everybody in the platform. So that's just something to keep note of if it's of interest. But it's also tied into the reputation system that I mentioned before, where people can earn points for asking questions and for voting on them, which is really great because it allows a little bit of responsiveness from the public in that arena and really helps us encourage curiosity. from a point-based perspective. And in the first 2 weeks, we had about 41,000 votes from users. So we're really hoping to see this trend grow. And again, I think the most important thing for me is that it really helps us manage traffic. And we may not answer everything immediately, but we get to the ones that rise to the top. The other thing is we have a filter on this. I know that's important to everyone. That's pretty aggressive. That is not only bad language and all of that, but also I go to this school, or my name is, or my address is, patterns like that would be objectionable from a COPA compliance and from a personal view, because we obviously want to keep the kids safe and not giving personal information about themselves. So there is also a second check feature on it where people, if they do see inappropriate content, can obviously flag that. And these are all common features that we see on a lot of sites. But what was new for us was that previously we really had a policy that we had to monitor everything before it was posted. And that was just really proving impossible for us to handle in a near real-time way in interacting with our interest groups out there. And so it's in trial phase, but so far it's worked out very well for us. And we think that the lawyers who also protect us are finding it to be working. So that might be of interest to folks, and I'm happy to talk to anyone offline if there's greater interest. And then the last slide here, you can see that we have the ability to respond. It's a Mars Mentor response, and the system allows us basically to assign mentors, not just a few people, but science mentors or engineering mentors, which also helps us spread the traffic management responsibilities with vetted people. So that's the quick overview of that. Any questions?
Okay, let's see. How about, let's see. Seeing how voting has been handled with comments on other technical sites, Daniel says he's a little bit hesitant to subscribe. This popularity of forum focuses. How do you kind of approach that? What other ways do you kind of look at having this community interact? Forums and chats?
Well, we definitely have Twitter and Facebook pages as well. But this is sort of our primary forum for just questions and answers. But for the Pathfinder Innovation Challenge that I mentioned earlier, we are going to open it up so that participants in the contest will be able to comment back and forth, because that's more of a user community group, and they need to as they're developing their software. And so that's the next stage of testing, just to see if that works, if the filters work, and if everybody's satisfied with that process. We're taking it slowly because obviously, as other people have mentioned, we need to be careful about what appears on a .gov site. But we're hoping that the experiment will bear fruit, because I think it'll open up a lot of opportunities for us to dialogue directly without a lot of barriers that can sometimes be off-putting to curiosity and to education.
Oh, well, that kind of leads into I took Daniel's comment out of context. So he's actually talking about how you prioritize various comments and or discussions, especially when there's like polarizing issues or a lot of people rushing to one issue or another. So it sounds like you're kind of taking not a wait and see, but as issues come up, that's how you're reacting to.
Yeah, so far we haven't actually had a lot of issues. Obviously there are some questions that we can't answer or don't want to answer, so we have to handle those carefully. It's interesting, though, because the public actually votes down questions that we wouldn't take off the site because they're not obnoxious per se, but make it difficult for us to answer from a policy perspective, or from a how do you guys feel about movie X that mentions Mars that we really wouldn't necessarily comment on or would need more time to think about the right answer. like I said, so far it seems like people are being pretty respectful and scientific about it themselves. And I think we had a couple problems with about 4 people at first, but 4 out of the initial 35,000 was pretty good. And like I said, the community was really good about vetting that for us too, either through votes or for flagging things as not relevant or inappropriate.
That's amazing. 4 out of 35,000. Do you find that the community really kind of self-polices itself?
Yeah, that's what we've really been finding and hoping for. And I think that, though, that filter that's on in front of it is really super helpful and important. It was so good, we actually had one person from the public write us and say, you wouldn't let me ask my question because I used the word assume, and the first 3 letters of that word might be objectionable. So we had to relax the code in some areas for those things. So.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. Do you ever make those lessons learned public at all, or?
Absolutely. Happy to share all of those things. As I mentioned, we're still 3 weeks old, so we're kind of working through all of the lessons learned as we speak, but hopefully in the future we'll have a more robust and or story to tell for you.
Well, that's excellent. Michelle, thank you so much for coming here, and we're so glad that Microsoft, as sponsor of the conference, was kind enough to mention that you were doing this great effort and so many people involved. 35,000, is that what your current user rate is now?
Yep, and that was just in the first 2 weeks, but all of those participants are still going crazy, so we're really excited. And, of course, our next task is to how to keep them. So we may have lessons learned on that in the future for everyone, too.
Are you a bit concerned because the Mars rover is kind of out of the news? Do you think that was kind of keeping this interest in Mars going?
No, not necessarily. I think people come around again, and really we're doing this 2 years out before our next rover mission. We often set internet records for public interest, and that's why cloud computing is also so interesting to us because of the scalability issues that we have literally on one night. And so all of these technologies that we're testing, these and others, are 2 years out of our big event when we definitely can't fail. So we're going to gain a lot of experience and hopefully get a lot of people, like I said, participating, because that's the real goal, along with citizen lifelong learning and eventually K-12 education.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you, guys.